Have you ever been accused of something that you did not do? How did you respond? For me, I get mad and defensive. I want to clear my name. I want to declare to the world that whatever it is that I've been accused of, I did not do, even if what I've been accused of are small things. But what if the things that you're accused of are not small? What if they are big things, like being a terrorist or a con artist or a murderer? Who then could keep silent? And who would want to? Jesus would know what it would be like to be accused of things that he did not do. At his trial, he would face accusations of all kinds. One charge would stick that would lead to his death. To call these proceedings a trial is to make a mockery of the term. First of all, the trial was held in the middle of the night, which is a pretty good indication that this was a shady deal. Secondly, Jesus' judge and jury were the very same people that he had been fighting with and arguing with in the temple courts that same week. They were hardly an unbiased jury. And third, there's a giant evidence manufacturing scheme that is going on against Jesus. All kinds of witnesses come forward and bring about false accusations, trying to find something that would stick. But of course, nothing would stick, for Jesus was and is the perfect Son of God who had no sins. Finally, however, two would come forward whose testimony would agree. And it's important to note that two came forward, for under the Old Testament law, in order for a charge to be viewed as valid, there had to be two witnesses whose testimony agreed. These two came forward and said that Jesus claimed to be able to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Now, Jesus, of course, was talking about the temple of his body, that he would be killed, and the Father would resurrect his body, would bring his body back to life, would rebuild his body in 3 days. They thought that Jesus was talking about the physical temple, which made them understandably concerned. And for Jesus to make this claim, to be able to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, was a supernatural claim. And so finally, the high priest asked him, "Tell us the truth. Are you the Christ? Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God?" And Jesus said to him, "Yes, it is as you say. You have said that it is so." And the high priest declared that Jesus had committed blasphemy, which was speaking against God or claiming to be God. And under the Old Testament law, blasphemy was something that was punishable by death. There are two things to note about this trial. First of all, Jesus is silent throughout the trial. Jesus says nothing because he knows that he must go to the cross and that he must die for our redemption. Second, ironically, it is Jesus' own words which condemn him. And these words are, in fact, true, for Jesus was and is the Son of God. It was this charge that Jesus claimed to be the Son of God that caused him to be condemned and to be led away to be put on trial before the Roman governor Pilate. Matthew tells us that when Jesus was put on trial, that Peter was in the courtyard of the high priest. And people began to come up to him and say, "Hey, you're one of those Jesus followers." A young servant girl came to him and said, "You were with Jesus of Galilee." A second servant came up to him and said, "You were with Jesus of Nazareth." Peter said with an oath, "I don't know the man." A third person came up, a soldier, and said, "You are one of those Galileans, those followers of Jesus. Your accent gives you away." And at this, Peter began to curse loudly, saying, "I do not know the man." And at that moment, the rooster crowed, and Peter was reminded of what Jesus had predicted, that before the night was out, he would deny him 3 times. And when Peter heard the rooster crow, he went out and he wept bitterly. Now Judas, when he heard that Jesus had been condemned, he was seized with remorse, and he went back to the chief priests, and he tried to give the money back, but they would not take it. And so he threw the money down at the chief priest's feet, and then he went out to a tree, and he hanged himself. Peter and Judas both failed Jesus. They both failed God. Peter went outside and wept bitterly, while Judas committed suicide. And that's what Satan wants us to do in our lives when we fail God. He wants us to give up spiritually, emotionally, physically. But what God wants us to do is to, like Peter, be filled with remorse, and God will indeed restore us and redeem us. God would later use Peter to preach the first gospel sermon after Jesus Christ would be raised from the dead. God can use all of us, no matter what we've done in our lives. He can bring redemption to us all. So now how about you? What is it that you've learned from this story? What mistakes have you made? And how do you think that God wants you to respond?